You probably haven't seen this, certainly not on the big screen, and YouTube accepting. Have you, either of you guys, seen this in any great shape?
First time since then.
Really?
Yeah.
Stewart?
It's sort of
We're so young.
it's sort of depressing and inspiring at the same time.
Now you look that much older. What memories?
What?
Not that you look that much older, really.
Beg your pardon.
You know, my eyesight's gone handy, but looking back on it, what memories came just immediately came back watching that?
Well, I think it's that, for us, of course, it's a bit of a blur at this point, but it's the vibe of the music and the whole thing, which was, obviously a great, inspiring thing to do with Amnesty International. And it was, I will say, actually a bit odd for us, because officially we'd broken up, or we sort of done this weird sort of cover-up, sort of silent breakup. And then 2 years later we came back and did this. And I think when we first went out, people were a bit shocked to see us, because we hadn't done anything, and suddenly we're there like we'd always been. So it was kind of odd. But it's there you are in the moment, and you get into it, and I think we had a great time with it, and felt that we were doing a bit of good in the world.
I was going to ask you, did you have any idea of the power of what you were doing at the time?
Well, I think, as musicians, we have to believe that music has great power. And, in the modern era, of course, rock and pop musicians have got an incredible voice and power in the world. They can put a huge message across.
Well, the extraordinary thing about that concert was that it literally made the issue of human rights a household concept. And certainly for Amnesty in the US, it was dramatic in the way that it swelled membership, in the way that it swelled just people's awareness of the issues. So it was I've always been fascinated, over the years thinking about it, watching it again, and wondering whether you actually knew just how powerful you were.
Well, we felt pretty powerful, didn't we, Stuart?
Way overblown ideas of our power. Don't even get us started.
The thing is that, as you say, it was a silent breakup. It wasn't like with the Beatles and Paul McCartney put out a press release. There was people saying, "Are they on hiatus or what?"
Yeah.
Was it? Do you recall how the reunion for the Amnesty shows happened? How it came about?
Somebody probably made a phone call.
Phone call, yeah. Andy was out doing an album. We were a million miles away from the police. Nothing could have been further. And suddenly, let's go back and be the police again. Oh, Jesus Christ! We're out there. The world was a very wonderful place. We each had very inspiring, creativity-rich zones that we lived in. To go back into that world, we weren't really kind of there in a way. We didn't get back there until 20 years later when we did our reunion tour.
And yet when I remember when it was announced, because you did 3 concerts, I think it was Atlanta, Chicago, and New Jersey.
We did New York. Can I just put out a little anecdote here, because it's sort of relevant, and maybe it's symbolic and metaphorical at the same time, about something that happened on the Amnesty tour. After we did No, it's worse. It's even worse. Yeah, we were coming in from Chicago on the plane. I think there was 136 of us, and all the performers, very famous people, all coming in on this plane. And we came into Kennedy, and I don't know if it was misty or rainy, but the plane did not land. We came down and we kind of hit the tarmac and took off and did a big circle. You can imagine the fear on the plane. There was this huge gas. We came down, pancaked again, and took off a second time. It was like a moment out of a really bad movie. It was a very frightening moment. Finally, we did come down. We were all white-knuckled in the seats like this, and we landed on the tarmac. And I remember clearly that Peter Gabriel, we got down, I think it was a big chin, and Peter Gabriel got up and he threw his pillow across the plane, and then someone else threw one, and suddenly we were having this incredible pillow flight on the plane. We were alive, freedom, So I think that's very symbolic of what it was all about. We nearly lost 136 famous people all in one go.
Record companies were disappointed, and they survived.
I don't think you're really quite getting the import.
Amnesty would have suffered terribly. Funny enough, I don't know if you guys know this yet, but we managed to find Peter Gabriel, you might remember on that tour, always had his camcorder, do you remember?
Yeah.
Which was about the size of a VHS deck. That's right. We actually have the footage of that pillow fight.
Oh, no!
We found it. Peter had lost his tapes. We found the tapes, and there is the
That's
photo.
right. Now I remember. He got out his camera in the middle of all this.
Yes, he got a camera. We found the footage.
Right.
It explained it all. Stuart, obviously, when it comes to having a reunion and you haven't played for some time, Sting, when I spoke to him about it, and he did an interview for the DVD, I asked him how it was. He said, we were a bit rusty. And then he said, I think we were always a bit rusty.
Yeah, well, bollocks. Yeah. Can I just say that I thought, the police in that film rocks harder than anybody else.
We got better after that, and we were better before that. Personally, I wasn't,
I thought you were great, Stuart. Come on, man.
I was there with Andy. It's going to be okay. The favorite moment of the whole thing, that last song, "We Shall Be Released," what had actually happened was we finished our set, and then this symbolic moment where we hand over the keys to the kingdom to U2, as if they were ours to give, and as if they hadn't already grabbed them. And so, Andy hands over the famous Telecaster, and I hand over my sticks. And before the show, I was pleading with Andy, please put it out too. Andy would have none of it. He's an honorable man. But we get out there, and so the three of us go to the front of the stage, and I don't know how to sing "I Shall Be," whatever it is, and somebody does a nudge on the shoulder. It's John Baez. And then there we get a nudge on the shoulder, and it's some other person who should be singing. And it's like, oh God, okay. So I kind of go off to the side, and I came around, and there's a row of people, all the famous people in the world, all in the front there. And behind them I look over on the drums, and there's Larry on my drum set. Only there's 10 other drummers. Everybody's got a stick and a cymbal, and the percussion rig. There's like everybody in every band is on stage. And behind all the singers, like they're all singing that way, standing right here is like a record company executive with his wife getting his picture. One of those magic memories.
I actually want to make a remark about that concert, the "I Shall Be Released" concert, the song. There's somebody sitting in the back of the stage there, Alicia Partnoy. Alicia, stand up so everybody can see you. Alicia was one of the...
You've moved on, in addition to composing films, you've made your own documentary and so forth, you've come into other words. Do you find there's a calling for you to do other things using your other skills as a composer, as a filmmaker, in these spheres of campaigning for human rights and other social and political causes?
There's really nothing heroic in what any of us artists do. It's the real heroes that are the real thing. All we do is we get up and play a show. That's what we do anyway. Most of the time we get paid to play a show. Other times it's for a good cause. It's the same show. There's nothing heroic about it all. It's what we do. We go home without a paycheck one night. That's not really that heroic. What you do is heroic.
No, but you know the power of what you do. I mean, the thing is that the fact of the matter is that you have an extraordinary capacity to inspire people and an extraordinary capacity to motivate people. And for me, I'm not a musician, but for me, I absolutely understand the power of that, and I understand what, I understand what a group of people can do together.
That's the brilliance of this whole setup between musicians and Amnesty, and it should continue forever.
One of the things that's made so remarkable, I don't know if you guys all know this, but I think it was actually because of Bob Geldof and Live Aid that these things never came out. Because Live Aid, famously, Bob Geldof said, oh, let it be a one-time thing on TV and let's not release it. And Amnesty followed suit, that's what Amnesty did, and placed them on the shelf. So in a sense, they've got greater value now because they've not been seen in high quality or anything, and that's now something that's come out.
You must have had the licensing nightmare from hell.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, there's the US Festival, there's all these serious festivals from back in the day that people are trying to make the movie, but you have a cause, I guess, which makes the difference, because it's hell. Getting all those artists signed on is a living nightmare, and that's an act of heroism, assembling all that stuff.
But do you know that there actually exists a napkin where Martin Lewis and Jack Healy sat one day. Where was the restaurant?
The Sunset Marquee, the pool of the Sunset Marquee.
There's a napkin that exists where the two of them sat and sketched out what these concerts would look like.
Tour.
The world tour.
Yeah. Beatles, nah.
Yeah.
Stones, maybe.
But I always give credit for Jack. I mean, it was a semi-liquid lunch, I think we could call it. And it was what happened was it was after the tour you guys just did. And Jack and I were sitting around like kind of old soldiers. I'd done Secret Policeman's Ball, he'd done Conspiracy, and so we were comparing notes about which manager we hated the most. You artists were wonderful. It was sometimes the managers were a little bit difficult, but we compared notes, and Jack had this great thing. He said, look, a year and a half, it's the 40th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is like the Magna Carta, really, for people everywhere. And he said, we have to do something big. And I said, what are you going to do? And his idea said, I've got a great idea, Martin. We're going to do a 24-hour rock marathon in Madison Square Gardens. I went, I thought we were against torture. This sounds like a new definition of torture. So several bottles of wine later, that's what happened. We were just scribbling away the ideas on the napkin, and I said, you should go around the world. But it was Jack Healy that put it together. I didn't. Jack Healy and Bill Graham have the determination and vision to make it happen.
Yeah, then they got out a real paper.
Is that napkin in the LA County Museum now?
Possibly, but funny enough, Stewart, you asked a very good question. How do we deal with the licensing? I have learned a lesson or two from the Secret Policeman's Ball days. I used to very dutifully go to all the record companies, because it was usually the record companies that were a little bit mean-spirited. The artists were fine, and the man you
Can I stand up for the record companies and explain why that is?
Yes, please.
Andy, Sting, me, Bono, we're saints up there. Look at them. The crew, the record company, the manager, they're not saints. They're giving up their paycheck too, but they don't get the sainthood. So that's why they're a little grumpier about it than us, who get all the, the applause and the love.
That's funny.
So let's hear it for the crew.
Okay, the documentary, we got a wonderful filmmaker. There was the A&R guy who discovered Bessie Smith and Bruce Springsteen, John Hammond. They made a documentary. American Masters did one of those documentaries about him. And we managed, it won the Peabody Award for the best documentary. We managed to get the editor of that film to make the documentary you'll see in the second half of this program, which was the history of the concerts. And he actually found some footage buried away of the crew members and the roadies that handled the world tour. And apparently Amnesty nearly had a human rights situation on its hands because they were working 36 hours a day on very low pay. But everybody pulled together, and that was the thing. For a cause like Amnesty, the reality was that the crew, the musicians, and everybody really came around.
Unsung heroes.
As for the licensing, Stewart, well, on the Secret Policeman's Ball, I used to go to the record companies and grovel and beg, and then I used to have to deal with really nasty guys who would give me a hard time. I took a different attitude on this. We're Amnesty. The artists are the greatest artists in the world. They gave their services free of charge. If you don't like it, sue us. You know what? And everybody's been totally cool with it. Because it's Amnesty, it's bloody human rights.
I'm gonna try that.
And we're very, very, very lucky that our new executive director is a lawyer. That's all I can say.
You may have to bail us out. Anne, the thing, none of us, for me, two of the most moving moments on the film, and you'll see this more in the DVD. One is seeing Prison of Conscience on stage, and secondly is seeing the mothers of the disappeared on stage. That happened in both Argentina and in Chile. And then Sting dancing with them, where they
She lost her husband, but she got to dance with Sting. I'm not laughing, they're laughing.
But it was some, one of the human rights activists said, look, these people are inconsolable, but to get some solace that they were being recognised, and that they were brought on stage with photographs of their loved ones. But to me, I was curious for you, Anne, when you're in prison, and did you know at the time when you were in prison that you'd been adopted as a prisoner?
No.
But there are prisoners who do find out they're adopted because the letters start coming in. What is that like? What is Amnesty's experience about prisoners letting you know after they've been released that they're aware that somebody on the outside, strangers, are writing on their behalf?
You know, the experiences that I've had and the conversation that I've had with people, it's that sense of never having been forgotten. Because when you're there, there are certainly are times when you feel incredibly alone. And you know, when you're in solitary confinement and you feel incredibly alone, and to know, and people have talked about that, to know that they haven't been forgotten. I mean, I was very lucky in the sense that I had a very, very large support group, but there are prisoners who are held in prisons that are, their families don't even know where they are. And that thing of knowing that there are people, not just that people care, but that people actually do something. And that people have the capacity to make governments change. And that people have the capacity to make governments release people is an extraordinary thing. An extraordinary thing.
I want to say we have a second half of this programme. And by the way, I do want to apologise. The marquee outside, I asked the folks if they could put up your names on the marquee outside, but they have a Russian festival going on here simultaneously, and they've used up all the letters S. So that's why it says outside, it just says live guests released at 3 p.m. So,
Amy Ummers.
so we're going to release you a little later at 5 p.m. What we'd like to do now is, after the intermission, there will be the documentary, and then this wonderful animated film, and then Peter Gable's home movie. But right now, I'd like to thank Anne Burroughs for your wonderful leadership. I'd like to thank Steve Hawkins, the new executive director. Thank you so much, Steve. And I'd like to thank you two guys, Stewart Copeland and Anne Summers, for the synchronicity of you being on the Amnesty tour and here today. Thank you very much.